All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive.
Absolutely, always ready to jump into these fascinating texts.
Well, today we're taking a look at Psalm 36, which is attributed to King David.
Right.
And, on the surface, it might just seem like another religious text, but I think there's a lot more going on here, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this psalm, it really digs into human nature, the struggle between good and evil, this search for something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful stuff.
Definitely. And there's even, some drama sprinkled in there.
Oh, yeah, it's not just a dry theological treatise. It's got some, real punch to it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's get right into it. Right at the beginning, Psalm 36 paints this picture of a wicked man.
Mm-hmm.
And he's totally defiant towards God. And get this.
Yeah.
It says he's scheming evil things from his bed.
Yeah. That's quite the image. Planning his next move from under the covers.
Right. I mean, it makes you wonder, what was his morning routine like?
Coffee, doom scrolling, more evil plots.
Exactly. But, okay, on a more serious note, what's the deeper meaning here? I mean, is this really about someone literally plotting evil from their bed?
Well, you have to remember, you're dealing with ancient Hebrew poetry, so it's using that image, the bed, to really symbolize something else.
Okay.
It's about a person who's so self-centered, their self-interest just permeates every aspect of their life. They've completely turned away from any sense of morality.
Yeah, it's like they've just rejected any higher purpose.
Exact.
And there's that line that really jumped out at me. It says, he is too proud to recognize and give up his sin. What do you think about that connection between pride and wickedness? Because some people might argue that it's actually ambition, not pride, that leads people astray.
That's a good point. It's a tricky one. I think ambition itself, it can be a good thing. It can drive us to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's not balanced, when we don't have humility to kind of keep it in check, that's when it can turn into that kind of blinding pride that the psalm talks about. We become blind to our own faults.
Right. And we make bad decisions because of it.
Exactly. And history's full of examples, right? Like leaders, empires, even entire societies crumbling under the weight of their own hubris.
Yeah, it's like that saying, pride comes before the fall.
Exactly.
And speaking of falls, the psalm then shifts gears and starts describing God. And the imagery here, wow, it is just breathtaking.
Oh, it's stunning.
It says, your loyal love reaches to the sky. Your justice is like the highest mountains. It's almost overwhelming in its scope.
It's meant to be. The psalmist is deliberately using these huge, grand metaphors on the sky, mountains, even the vastness of the sea, to really try to capture the infinite nature of God's love and God's justice.
Right.
And don't forget, in ancient Hebrew culture, these natural elements, they held a lot of power and significance. They represented stability, permanence in a world that often felt very unpredictable and chaotic.
Yeah, it makes sense. There's also this one verse that I found so intriguing. It says, they are filled with food from your house, and you allow them to drink from the river of your delicacies. I mean, it almost feels so rich, so sensual.
Right. It's such a evocative image. It's definitely pointing to something deeper than just physical food and drink.
Yeah.
It's suggesting that being in a right relationship with God brings about this deep sense of abundance, of joy, of nourishment, almost like a divine feast,
Yeah, a spiritual feast. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
But then the tone of the psalm kind of shifts again.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, we hear the psalmist pleading for protection from the wicked. And it creates this sense of vulnerability. Like even King David, this powerful warrior, felt threatened, felt like he needed help.
Yeah, I think that's so important. It shows us that even the strongest among us, even people like King David, they can feel vulnerable. They can feel scared. It's a reminder that we all need help sometimes. We all need to seek refuge and safety, especially when we're facing something evil or threatening.
Absolutely. And then we come to the end, and wow, what an ending. It says, I can see the evildoers. They have fallen. They have been knocked down and are unable to get up.
Right.
You can talk about a dramatic climax.
It really is. It's like, the final scene in an action movie. But I don't know if it's meant to be taken literally. I mean, this is poetry, right? So it's probably more symbolic.
Okay, so what do you think it symbolizes?
Well, maybe it's about the ultimate downfall of wickedness itself. The idea that evil, in the end, it self-destructs. Those who choose that path ultimately bring about their own ruin.
So taking a step back, what do you think Psalm 36 is trying to tell us? Not just as ancient readers, but as people living in today's world.
I think it's reminding us that this battle between good and evil, it's not just some abstract theological debate.
Right.
It's playing out in our own lives, in our own hearts every single day. It's about the choices we make, the things we value, the things we prioritize.
Yeah.
And where we place our trust. Where do we seek security and safety in the midst of a world that can often feel very chaotic?
That is a powerful point.
Yeah.
And it leaves us with so much to think about.
Yeah, it does.
If Psalm 36 was written today, what would those modern-day examples of wickedness and righteousness be? What are our mountains and oceans today that represent those things that are enduring, those things that give us a sense of security?
Yeah.
Something to think about as we head back into our own worlds.
Definitely.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time.
See you then.